we have the opportunity at this moment in time, on the heels of Attorney Redding and Chancellor Seitz, to fix it all.
Nobody really likes the education system in Delaware. It's an issue. I don't like it either.
And I believe that if you join us in this challenge, that our children and this country will be the better for it.
The imperative for excellence in education hasn't ever been greater. This is going to require us to work together. That's why I'm convinced that we can do
it. Welcome to Wilmington, the largest city in the second smallest state that about 70,000 people call home. On the surface, the city and its suburb are just like any other. The school system, however, is a different story. In a state at the nexus of North and South, the problems students face are deeply rooted in its history. During the Civil War, Delaware remained in the Union, but was one of the 5 border states. A microcosm of the nation, Delaware found itself divided over the issue of slavery.
State Constitution 1897 actually guaranteed the segregation of schools.
In the 1954 Supreme Court case, Brown v. Board of Education, the court ruled that school segregation was unconstitutional. Out of the 5 cases, 2 were from Delaware, and these were the cases that set the precedent for the decision.
Well, then what happens in Delaware? And the answer is nothing. Nothing happens for another 20 years.
With no federal enforcement, Brown v. Board was more of a suggestion than a mandate.
A federal judge says justice delayed is justice denied, that's enough. And so the federal courts order metropolitan school desegregation.
Delaware was now forced to comply and had to integrate its student body immediately. They took northern New Castle County, eliminated all 11 school districts, and created one unified school district. The idea was that everyone had to be in the same district in order to equalize opportunity and resources. Things were looking up, and forces were in motion to finally break down decades of segregation. The single district system, though well-intentioned, proved to be a logistical nightmare. The required bus pattern needed to maintain the district forced students to commute over an hour to get to their school. The single district was widely criticized and led the state government to then split into 4 districts: Christina, Colonial, Red Clay, and Brandywine, and gave each district a piece of Wilmington. That system still exists to this day, affecting not only Wilmington, but the areas surrounding it as well.
The way the school district is all chopped up, and you look at a map and you're like, what the hell is going on?
It's very complicated, so I cannot completely explain it because I still don't know about it. On the one hand, it sounds, fabulous to have all of these choices and options, but what you don't realize is how complicated it is, the different processes, the time that it takes. If you don't educate yourself, if you're unable to educate yourself, or if it's beyond your level of comprehension, you don't have help, whatever the case may be, then your child is going to be the one that suffers.
Busing students from Wilmington to a nearby district merely maintained the inequity of resources. Suburban parents felt that the public schools with large concentrations of Wilmington students suffered in quality, and Wilmington's children had to be driven miles away from their homes just to get an education. As a result, dozens of charter schools and private schools emerged.
When we were looking for a house to buy when my daughter was in kindergarten, we looked around at the schools, and the grade schools are either high or low.
Sorry, you're gonna go to one of these schools. I don't know which one.
Leona is 3.5, so I probably next year will start looking into the different options for her education.
What is that?
But my understanding is it's quite a process. There's applications involved, deadlines.
So she started out at West Park, and we wanted to keep her there, and found out later actually that if we had choiced her in to that school, before the choice places were all taken, and choiced her in on the basis of the fact that she went to aftercare at Early Learning Center, which is within the school district, that she would have automatically been able to stay at that school even if we were in a different place.
Across the street, a family goes to Newark Charter. Down the street, they go to the public elementary school. So even just on 1.5 streets, there's why we've all chosen different options.
Most of the states, charter schools are authorized by school districts, but in Delaware we've done it differently. We made those charters are predominantly authorized by the state, and they're outside of the districts, and so they're kind of like creating little districts on their own.
So school choice and the charter school movement have indeed pushed the traditional public school districts to look very closely at their offerings.
I expect that an educational system with 4 traditional school districts, 1 VOTEC district, 13 charter schools, 11,500 City of Wilmington children, and millions of dollars in resources should do better than a 60% high school dropout.
Today, segregation still tarnishes Northern Delaware's education system, a system that serves 64,000 students. Just look at Wilmington, a city in which 83% of students are from low-income families and 74% identify as Black. In terms of academic performance, dropout rates, and graduation rates, Wilmington students perform at a lower level than non-Wilmington students.
Why are districts throughout the state different? Same reason they're different in other states and countries. Boils down to socioeconomics and culture.
Ever heard of child raising children? Yeah, they're 22, 23 years old, having a baby. It's ridiculous, you know? But they have no education. You gotta learn how to read, write, and arithmetic. I learned that a long time ago. If you don't, you can't go nowhere in life.
We know that the achievement gap between rich and poor kids, right, exists in many cases by age 3. Well, kids don't go to school till they're maybe 5, it's kindergarten, right? This is a dilemma, right? We know that there's a lot of issues with what happens to kids after school, right? Are they on the streets?
These kids don't have nothing to do. I mean, they go to school, the ones that go to school. If you look around right here now, you see there's a lot of people standing on the corner, right? Well, they think that's cool, so that's what they want to be like. But if we had gyms and stuff like that, or after school academics or whatever like that, so they can go play basketball, home economics. We had all that when I was in school.
There's an assumption that there's a problem with the schools, and then the reputation sort of outpaces the reality.
We have a very high violence problem in the city of Wilmington, particularly youth violence. The Centers for Disease Control came in last fall and defined it as a pandemic of violence.
And they usually go by what they see on the streets. And then they take that into school. That's why you have a lot of fights and a lot of, you know, I mean.
So we can't think of this as just a problem we're going to solve within the boundaries of the school. That's what I mean by saying we're trying to fit the kids and all these complications in their lives to a system that really wasn't designed to serve that purpose, right? So, and it's not that the people in the system aren't trying hard, right? It's that we haven't really said, no, what we really need to do is redesign, right, public education system.
For decades, government officials, teachers, administrators, and everyday citizens have been working to fix the system. The Wilmington Education Improvement Commission continues to meet several times a year to discuss the merging of school districts, the lack of funding, and more.
This year, if we move forward with the combination of Christina's Wilmington sectors moving into Red Clay, that there would be 4,357 students affected.
With the help of Delaware citizens, the education system can be saved.
Delaware Can's mission is to empower, to mobilize, and to collaborate with everyday Delawareans to advocate for an excellent education system in the state. And so our goal really is to, how do we make sure that every student has access to a great school. We know that a great school can change everything for students.
Part of my teaching philosophy is that I must teach through the lens of the real world, and that every lesson can somehow be connected to a life skill that they're going to need to succeed in the real world.
Referendums provide citizens the opportunity to directly improve public schools, though often at the risk of raising taxes.
I think when people are sitting there saying that the public schools are not doing a good job or anything like that, I think they're missing the fact that if you have the right resources and if you have the right people that are there, you can actually accomplish the things that you need to accomplish. So I'm in full support of this referendum.
I believe that education can change the trajectory of individuals' lives.
Education is a foundational thing that will help us solve some of the other issues.
If we want to make an impact and a difference in the world that we're going to see tomorrow, we need to help today.
In a state with 1 million people, less than 1 million, 100,000 school-age kids, reasonable minds should be able to figure out that after 40 years of busing, 70 years of an antiquated funding system, 100 years of analysis, that we could, in fact, provide quality education to the least advantaged children in our community.